Today's guest is someone who has built a platform around personal growth, self-love, and becoming the person you're meant to be. She's an author, a podcast host, and someone who spends a lot of time encouraging women to believe in themselves, grow through their experiences, and create a life that they're proud of. There's an assumption, though, that we make about people who inspire us. We assume they've got it all figured out, they're always confident, they have all the answers. But growth isn't about reaching a perfect final version of yourself. It's about continuing to evolve even when no one else sees the process. So today we're talking about the assumptions people make about healing, success, and becoming the person you're meant to be. So welcome to today's episode of She's Probably Talking to Other Guys. I'm going to toss it right over to Candy so she can introduce herself.
Thank you for having me, Annie. And I am I feel grateful and blessed to be here, and I appreciate the invite. My name is Candy, and like Annie said, I am all about encouraging women. Um, I'm a nurse and a mom, and I do content creation as well.
Just a friendly reminder, I'm not a therapist, psychologist, or expert in human behavior. This is a judgment-free assumption checking zone. Take what resonates and leave the rest. How did you get started as an author and a podcast host?
So a couple years ago, I I was sitting with this woman, she's the older woman, and I was in nursing school at the time, and it was becoming very overwhelming to me, and I just was looking for someone, to just kind of speak with and kind of go back and forth with some of the things that I was going through at the time. And, as we started kind of getting deeper into the conversation and about me, and she was like, if there was something that you wanted to do, for yourself, what would it be? And I said that I always wanted to kind of give back in a way that will uplift young girls and young ladies that were becoming women. And I know I had a good voice, and I had been listening to podcasts, and I was thinking, I might start a podcast one day. And she's like, do it. Like, why can't you do it? And I'm like, you're right. Why can't I? And that's just kind of just how it started. And the author, I was just like, I journal a lot of my thoughts, and it just came about kind of like that. I was journaling, and a lot of my thoughts were going, and I wanted to like leave something behind from me. And that's just kind of how that came about as well. I didn't even really know it would become a book. I just was writing, and over time, I had all of these little notes and journal entries and like note entries on my cell phone, and it just came together kind of like that. I've been working on it probably this is 2026, 3 or 4 years, to be honest with you. And I just within the last year became very serious about it, and it just came about like that. I put it all together and just made a book.
That's very impressive. And I actually really love how the story just kind of happened. It sounds like a meant to be kind of scenario there for you. So I love that.
Yeah.
Did you ever second guess if people would connect with your story?
No, as a nurse and just a general person that I'm very curious by nature. And so I always like talk to people. I always talk to people, and a lot of us have a lot of similar stories. And it's just like we resonate with each other. And I feel like people would resonate with it. I didn't even think of it that far, to be honest with you. I knew it was something that was on my heart to create, and I just created it, And it was kind of almost an afterthought, like if people would resonate with it, that would be great. But it wasn't like the end all be all.
Based on releasing your book, right? You kind of, I feel like, had this gut feeling it was going to make sense to people, which it did. What do you feel like is something that like women specifically are craving right now, or that they feel like they want to connect with right now that maybe they don't say out loud to people?
That they want to be heard, understood, helped genuinely, and not always have it be an exchange, like genuinely, sincerely creating a connection and having someone to hear you and see you, and understand what you're going through. And if they resonate with it, great. If you could create a connection with them, even better. But a lot of women want to be heard, you know, and listened to and seen and appreciated, and not just as an exchange. Like, oh, I'm going to do this for you if you do this for me, kind of thing. Like sincere, genuine connections.
I do feel like I completely get where you're coming from, and I feel like social media almost, not that it's like the complete fault of social media that things tend to become almost an exchange in life. But I totally get what you're saying. When people are saying, "Oh, I'll comment on your post if you comment on mine." Well, no, I can
Exactly.
just comment on your post because I want to. You don't
Yeah,
have to necessarily comment something back. Before we move into the assumption portion, I have one more question for you. So, what is the biggest misconception about the thought of becoming the person you're meant to be?
that it's like a final destination, I think. I think we're always evolving, and each, you know, day almost, you can be, excuse me, you can be a different or a better version of yourself. I feel like the biggest misconception is like you have a final destination, and you don't. You can wake up tomorrow and say like, I don't really care for this about myself. I like to work on changing it. Or like when I hit this milestone, that's it. And what I found is you can reach a lot of milestones and still feel like you haven't reached, or your destination yet. So the misconception like you've reached a certain path in life and that's it is not realistic, in my opinion, because you can always evolve. I've done it so many times, like in different areas of my life, you know, from when I was a teen to 20s, 30s. I'm in my 40s now. I've been lots of different versions of Candy. I think this is my best version yet, but I'm excited for what's to come for myself also, and excited for what's next.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like it's a little bit also of living in the moment, you know? You
Yeah,
appreciate who you were while you're still excited about who you're becoming.
exactly. Exactly. And I give her grace through each step.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to move into the assumption portion. So these are assumptions that come from the dark corners of the internet. What we're going to do is I'm going to read them to you, and then you give me your thoughts on them, and you can 100% tell us if you think that assumption is not true whatsoever. So,
Okay.
number one, you have to be fixed before you can start becoming who you're meant to be.
Hmm. What is fixed? You know, like everybody's interpretation of what is something is different. So you can wholeheartedly feel like you're fixed and somebody else might not. So it really, to me, is based on what you yourself, and you decide what your next thing is. I think the biggest misconception or assumption with being fixed is that I think that's outwardly, you know, like whoever came up with the you're broken thing, who gave you that uh, control mechanism to say who is broken and who is fixed. So I think that's in the mind, you know, of being fixed. When was I broken? You know, maybe I was a little bent or a little bruised, but broken, almost like in the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I feel the same way about that. And your eye is the best. I think everybody should just like see what best works for them and keep that at the forefront. Because I think when a lot of other people's opinions get diluted in, your concept of yourself starts to get a little diluted if you allowed it.
That is so
Yep.
beautifully said. Up
Thank you.
next, confident people have never struggled with insecurity.
Oh my God. That is a huge assumption. First of all, confidence is built. And I think a lot of people's misconception of being confident is misconstrued because I think a lot of people think if you're pretty or beautiful or whatever society thinks is beautiful, let me say that, because I do believe it's an eye of the beholder, that they're automatically confident. Well, in reality, what I found for myself is that you can be physically beautiful, but still feel nervous and still feel, you know, like you still have stuff to get together. And it's a shame that a lot of people prejudge what they think is confident people and won't even allow them a chance because they feel like they have it all together already. And we all are a work in progress, even the most confident people. And I listen to a lot of talk from people who are well established, celebrity status, big content creators, and we all are still getting it together. And it's a daily thing because you don't always feel confident. So it's like, I think that's a huge assumption that they believe that confident people have it all together because it's a daily, like, build yourself up kind of thing to bring that confidence to the forefront. You really have to believe in yourself. And it's not like an outwardly thing, it's more inwardly.
Beautifully said again. And I completely disagree with that assumption as well. Up next, people who inspire others always have a clear path.
Hmm. Yeah, the path it could be clear, and then you go a little further down the path and you run into rocks and you run into a broken bridge. And that person, what makes them different is that they still find a way. They don't look at the path and they say, oh, it's clear and I know it's going to always be clear. But really, from experience, you know better. And the only way you can know that is if you continue to do things, experience things. So it's just like with experience, you know that it's never a clear path. It may seem or start clear, but you 9 times out of 10 are going to run into something. So it's all about re-clearing the path for you. And you have to do that. Like, nah, it's not going to always be a clear path. It might, you can be hopeful, but if it doesn't, then what? You got to clear it. If that's what you really want, you got to clear it. Yeah.
The next one I feel like is kind of related to the misconception you leaned into earlier, but the last assumption is once you find yourself, you stop changing.
Hmm. Again, I think everybody is unique, and some people do that. They feel content where they are, and they're not open to evolve or change. And it's to each its own, you know. And us as humans, if we are really about connecting with people, you can't be so judgmental and close yourself off if this person decides to say, "Hey, um, I'm done growing. I'm gonna stay here. This is where I am." And if this is a person that you want to connect with, then you have to be okay with that. And that person has to be okay with you still wanting to grow. And if you want that connection to last, you too have to be agreeable to allow each other that space to make their own decisions and feel like they made the right ones for themselves. Yeah, some people, they do feel like I'm where I want to be and I'm good. It's just unique for everybody. Because I have run across some people that are like, yeah, I think I made it. And to be honest with you, they probably have changed and they're just missing it in some kind of way. I feel like we all some kind of way evolve, even if it's just changing your hairstyle or, going a different route that you've always gone. Because a lot of people overlook those little bitty things. Like it's even with us, like if I'll change my nail shape sometimes. Like you don't think of that as a big thing, but it is a big thing
What has writing and podcasting taught you about yourself?
that I could do pretty much whatever I set my mind to.
And that's a
Yep.
beautiful thing.
Yep. Each time I try something new, it just builds my confidence. And I encourage women, you know, to try things, until you see what works. You won't know until you at least try it. And each time you complete it, you feel better about yourself. You're like, I did that. Yeah, I did that. And then when people get in your head and they're like, oh, you're this and you're that, because it comes. All have had it. So it's like you can look back at your own resume and say, well, I know you feel that way, but I also know I did this, this, and this successfully. So I'm going to have to disagree. It made me feel like I can do whatever I put my mind to. And I'm proud of myself.
As you should be. I mean, I love chatting with you right now, and I feel like we're gonna have to have some more chats in the future because I'm loving everything that you're saying right now and just your message and just overall, like how you look at like what's presented in front of you and how can you change and kind of keep navigating your way through life.
Yeah, I'm my own kind of competition. I've always felt like that. I'm really into self-evaluation. I'm open to constructive criticism. I just want to be the best I can be in whatever time I have while I'm here, to be honest with you. I'm so grateful. I love my life. And yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the name of your podcast is Hey Young Girl?
Well, I just changed it. When I first came up with Hey Young Girl, my whole concept was like, from a young girl, I used to counsel and things when I was young, like with summer camp. And so that's really what it was all about. I wanted to be a voice to other young ladies if I could, to listen. And I changed it to Grow with Candy because I felt like I was evolving as well. And I saw that my audience were all different ages. And I didn't want people to feel like they were excluded because of the girl on the end of it. So I felt like Grow with Candy could evolve as I grew as well, because I'm a growth in process, as well. So it started out as Hey Young Girl, and the mindset was to assist other young girls. Because I felt like I wish I could have had that like mentor or something like that as I was growing up.
That's so beautiful. And I absolutely love tuning in. Every time I see you on my feed, I'm like, oh, volume on. I need to listen to this.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. It gets discouraging sometimes, and I had to really put it in my head, like, not to really look at the numbers and all, like, social media, like, oh, if you're not growing with the numbers and stuff like that, you're not it. But in my mind, I'm like, my goal was to help people in with the podcast. So even if the numbers aren't showing it, I'm gonna still show up because I wouldn't want somebody to, quit on me, and I'm not gonna quit on myself. So, I know things take time, and I'm very patient.
What's one thing you hope every woman listening should remember about herself?
That you are strong and you are capable, and just don't give up on yourself. How they say when you're on an airplane, if it's going down, you have to put the mask on. It is so true, because if you don't work, how can you help anybody else? So at the core of yourself, you have to love yourself and know that you're enough regardless of any external thing. If it comes or goes, whether it be money, relationships, accolades, if all of that still goes, you are still there. And you have to constantly pour into yourself. It's not like a light switch you can cut on and off. Like yeah, cut it off to get your rest, but cut it back on, you know? Like, keep going. Even if it's just you, you'll find your tribe eventually.
What is the biggest assumption you've had to let go of in your own life?
That you have to control everything. I was one of those, like, I had to have my hands in everything and let me, I got it, and it has to go like this. But life has really humbled me, and I've seen that, I don't have to have it always in control. You know, I can allow, things to kind of just, like you say, you're in the present. Let's just see how it goes. And I'm kind of okay with that. I used to is like, oh, it has to be like this. It has to, but no, I'm open to different perspectives, and I don't always have to control everything. Matter of fact, it actually is very freeing.
I love that. And it just, I feel like it's just creating a whole new pathway to learn more about yourself and to grow maybe in ways that you didn't expect or you never planned.
Exactly. And if you think you can control everything, you really can't. I love the serenity prayer, the one about, accept the things that I can change and the courage to change the things that I can. That's one of my favorites, you know?
It's beautiful. Candy, it has been such a joy chatting with you today. You are, exactly like the radiant light that you are on Instagram. And I really, truly hope
Oh,
that everyone can find
thank
you
you.
and follow you and support you. For everyone tuning in, her handle will be in the Spotify description of this episode. You'll be able to click on it and go find her on social media. But Candy, it has been so much fun talking with you today, and I'm sure that people are going to be inspired by this episode.
I hope so. And I really appreciate you having me on, Annie. I really do. Thank you.